Any other questions? Tfaddali.
Sorry. So, in talking about the topic of interest, I was having a conversation with someone who was saying the Ummah keeps falling behind because we're not keeping up with like the financial kind of scenario of the world. And I was kind of obviously pushing the point that interest is haram, regardless. So how would you kind of comment around that?
So the question's about usury and interest. It's a vexed issue because of the actual application of it. So, for example, as we've said previously before, that the last person to make hijrah from Mecca to Medina was who? Sayyidina al-Abbas, right? And so he stayed behind and he was still doing the usurious transactions for the Prophet ﷺ. And then when Fatah Makkah occurred, the Prophet said haram, but all the usurious transactions are haram. So from that in particular, the Hanafi scholars, and it's not like yesterday they come up with this, we're talking for hundreds of years they've been doing this. The Hanafi said that if you're in a place where there isn't Islam, that usury is okay. It's okay to use it. It's okay to use interest. And so that's the ruling that they have. So that might be Australia, that might be other country, India, whatever. So that's what the Hanafis have the ruling of that. So the question, and there's a thing they say dar al-harab or dar al-kufr, but that's in terms of that's like a socio-political, if you like, statement about where's kufr and where's dar al-Islam. Those lines become a bit blurred. So there is a dispensation for those types of things within that madhab for people to do things like that. So that's where you've got to be careful about that. Now the comment about the ummah being behind because we don't use usury, that's completely batil. That's completely false. How can we as a ummah entertain and be involved in a system that goes against the basis of as a ummah, not as an individual? As an individual is a different story. Okay? There's dispensation. But as a ummah, right, are we poor or are we wealthy as an ummah? We're super wealthy. Petrodollars runs just about everything. Not just about, every single thing you see around you except our own persons is based on petrol. Even if it's not made from petrol, it took petrol to get it from wherever it was, somewhere in the Amazon or wherever, to this country. Everything of the manufacturing process had to use it. That's the reality of it. So we are extraordinarily, obscenely wealthy. So our issue isn't that, the reason why we're like, we're talking about the natural resources that exist in the Muslim world, particularly the petrol, right? We're exceedingly wealthy. Why is it that as an ummah, as individuals, we're poor? It's because of the system. If we had an Islamic system where gold was the standard or whatever, and we battled on with the usurious system, we destroy that system. I'll give you an example. Insurance. So you pay. Why is it haram in the sense of what the scholars say? Because you pay your premium, or you pay your whatever it is, $1,000 a year, for example, to insure your car or house or whatever it is. And that company takes that money and invests it on the stock market and turns your 1,000 into 2,000. But it's your money. How can they take that profit? It's your money. It's not their money. They went and used your money to make more money. And so you become a partner in reality. It's like a mutual. NRMA back in the day used to be mutual, and they weren't making whatever, and then it became a thing. Right? So how does Islamic insurance work? The policy holders for the insurance, they're actually members and owners of that organisation. So they pay their premium at the beginning of the year. They pay out all the claims. They pay all their debts, to workers and renting and whatever else. And whatever's left over, they give it back. It's not theirs. So in Malaysia, after 3 years, the takaful funds, after 3 years you don't pay dividends at the end of the day. They give you more money than you actually put into it. So are you trying to tell me that any normal-minded human being would prefer this method of insurance or the Islamic method of insurance? You've got to be nuts. You've got to be completely insane to believe, right, that because of the system, because of us not using usury, what are you talking about? The whole reason the world is behind, the whole reason injustice is because we're not only about legal justice and social justice, we're about financial justice. The reason there are so many poor people is because of the usurious system, because only the people with the most amount of money make more money. So for example, in the banking scenario, if you want to buy something, you've got to go partners with the bank. You win, they win. You lose, they lose. That's how it works. But in this system, the bank wins no matter what. They want that's why, the good old Shylocks and the, what was it? The Merchant of Venice and the Shakespeare, they want their pound of flesh. In other words, they want their money no matter what. They don't care what happens to you. How's that fair? How's that fair? How can anyone accept that? And then when you go to value something for tax purposes, they don't value it on the market value. How's that fair? Nothing's valued. It's valued on the purchase price that you purchase or some artificial value. How that's just manipulated by who? The people who have money. So trying to say that the ummah's backwards because we don't use we're backwards because we use that system. But like I said, as individuals, there's dispensations for people to. And then look, I'll warn you. SubhanAllah, I've been wanting to talk about this for a little bit, and inshallah, I'll warn you about these so-called Islamic investment groups that are out there, right? Like some of them, one time, one of them came. They wanted to get in a halal land, and so what they do, they buy a big parcel of land, whatever 10 hectares or whatever it is, big 20, 30, 40,000 square meters, and they divide it up. And they put roads, and they divide up into little blocks of 600 square meters to put a house on it. And they put roads and all that sort of stuff. And they say, oh, we're going to sell it to you cheap. But what are these guys? These are Muslims. Or whether they know or they don't know, I don't know. But it's haram. You can't do that. So what they do is, they say, give us a deposit of 10 grand. With that 10 grand, they purchase the land. And with that 10 grand, they subdivide and they develop the lots. And then they sell it back to you at a profit. It's haram. Once they use your money, once anyone uses your money, right, to make money, you're a partner with them. You're a partner with them. So it's haram. These building things that are going on, all this rubbish. Illa man rahima rabbi. Illa man rahima rabbi. They're just taking advantage of people. You can't take people's money, right? I've got no money, but I've got an idea. Okay, my idea is to buy land, subdevelop it, make small lots, and give it to you cheap. Cheap, mind you. But I've got no money, right? So I collect the money from you guys. Yeah, I buy it, I subdevelop it, and then I sell it back to you guys, but it's your land. These people are crooks. Exactly. So when would it be halal for me to do that? If I had, how much millions of dollars to buy that much, how much does it cost to buy 100,000 square meters? $10 million. If I had $10 million and I said I want to do something good for everyone, so the normal plot of land costs 200 grand, I want to sell it to you for 100, I'm entitled to do that. But once I start collecting your money to purchase it or to develop it, it's haram for me to use that money. We're partners. So that's the ummah. That's the ummah that you're seeing here. That's the ummah that people are talking about. And it is rife. It is rife. Halal or Muslim, right, or Islamic or Sharia compliant in the very, 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 very vast majority of situations is the person who's telling you that is a broker, and they're making a percentage on your back. If they're not a complete criminal and they're taking your money and they're just selling it back to you at a profit. And when these people were selling, we went to the place where this bloke was selling land. That's how we worked it out. It's impossible. It's impossible, right, for that person not to be collecting the money and doing it on their own. And we worked out the money he was collecting was exactly how much the plots of lands were, the huge plots of lands, and the extra that was going to be left over that he was going to subdivide with came from the people. You can't do that. So how would that have to be halal? I want to be a good Samaritan. I come to 20 people. I say, listen, I got this idea. I don't have any money. All right? Each of you put 20 grand in, right? And I get a free lot. Do you all agree? Yeah, you're doing the hard work. Take the free lot. Okay? So I get it and I do all the hard work, subdivide it, get a free lot out of it, and all our lots are equal. And then let's say the costs are a bit extra. We divide the cost. Let's say we pay 20 grand for it. And it costs another, so there's 20 of us, it costs another 200 grand. Each of us puts another 10 grand. You got to put another 10 grand for me because I'm doing the hard work. Khalas. I can't sell it to you for 60,000. That's what's going on. I can't sell it to you for 100,000. I can't because it's your money. We're all partners in that. So whatever the cost price is, that's what it's worth. And no one's going to do that. Only someone who fears Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and has some sort of spirituality. Some sort of spirituality. Because the black and white halal, they'll just twist that to whatever they want. They'll twist that to whatever they want. And the examples of it, Just ask anyone who's dealt with these people. Not only are they crooks, but they're completely unprofessional. إِلَّا مَنْ رَحِمَ رَبِّي. I don't mean all of them. But they're completely unprofessional. Not only they're still taking people's money, but they don't even really know what they're doing. This guy used to be like, something else, and now he's developing land. And this guy was a whatever, and now he's developing. This guy was a school teacher, and this guy was like a doctor or whatever, MD. And he's, what are you talking about? What do these blokes know about developing land? Sorry, with all due respect to those that are doing it properly, which is very, very few. So that's the issue. When it comes to money, people forget their deen because they see a quick buck and they put the word Islamic, halal, sharia, even with wills. Like for example, I do Islamic wills, as you know. Some of the things that I've seen that try and pass for Islamic wills, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billahi al-ali al-azim. People bring it in and say, Sheikh, this is someone, a lawyer went to a lawyer and they said it's an Islamic will. I'm like, whoa, what Islam they're on, I don't even know. Or if they say Sharia compliant, maybe it's the Sharia of, Sayyidina Adam, or who knows. I don't know what Sharia they're talking about. So you got to be careful. Don't be duped because someone's, brother, sister, mashallah, tabarakallah, astaghfirullah. Don't be duped. Right? Don't be duped. Keep your wits about you. And then one of the Hijaz, your father, mashallah, when people came to him, they came and asked me. He goes, what do you think? I said, is there a contract? He's like, no. I said, there's no contract. Let them talk from now till as they say, the cows come home. Let them talk till they're blue in their face. No one's got a contract for you to see. Bro, talk, whatever. Yeah, no worries, mate. I'll get back to you later. Well, you got to have a contract. It's got to be written down. You're going to sell land without contracts. And this is the funny thing. One of the selling points the brother came to us with, this sheikh and this sheikh has already given 10,000. I was like, what? How can you be given money? And then it deludes other people. Other people think, the sheikh's doing it. It must be fine. Yeah, right, there's a fatwa, there's a ruling, there's dispensation. So be very, very, very careful when it comes to these things. Tfaddala.
How about if you're an investor and you get a profit? Like if someone's like building, for example, bought land and building a house? Not like and...
Are they taking your money?
Yeah, but then like just for example, I give money.
Yeah.
And then they build and sell it, but then I get a profit.
Well, that's the point. You're entitled to the same profit as everybody else.
That's fine.
Well, it depends. So they're taking your money and they're building, right?
Yeah.
And they're giving you back 10%. But they've made 30%. They've got to give you the same proportion as them because they're using your money to build. That's what's going on. It's good that you brought it up. But that's what's going on, right? They're telling people, 9%, 8%, 10%, right? But they're making 30. In building, the margin is 30% profit. If you get something and you build it, the margin is 30, generally speaking. So if they're not giving you 30% when you're a partner with them, then they're duping you. And it's haram. It's haram. There's no fatwa and it's just they've got you to sign a contract. They think it's halal or they don't know or they don't care. And you signed it. And and the things that are going on, the fraud, the making up of how much people are earning. There's Muslims doing that I'm talking about. Like people go, I want to get a thing, I want to invest, we don't have the money. Don't worry, we'll get the accountant, he'll make up some pay slips for you, he'll make up whatever, I will transfer some money into your bank. This is what goes on. So not only is it haram, it's unprofessional on top of that, and meaning illegal as well. It's even worse than unprofessional, it's illegal. So you got to be careful. If you're giving your, that's why I said be extremely careful. Be extremely careful. Especially, look, if the guy's a builder, let's say for example, he's been building for 20 years, 10 years, he's got a building degree or whatever the degree they have for being an engineer or whatever, all right, maybe. But most of these guys are not. There's something else and they got together because they think it's a good idea and all they're doing is skimming, it's not even off the top, they're just ripping the heart out of everyone, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because halal, it's easy, we're easy marks, we're easy targets. The Muslim king, because we're trusting, we trust. He's a brother, mashallah. She's a sister. He says, mashallah, alhamdulillah, jazakallah khair, astaghfirullah, barakallah fiqh. And we get fooled. But it's not the mu'min, fatinun, qayyis. Fatin, intelligent, qayyis, good, but also crafty. You can't just be silly, and the believer doesn't fall into the hole more than once. Because when they fall into the hole, they know a hole's there, they go around it. So be careful. This is all prophetic traditions. So be careful where you put your money. Be careful when it's mashallah, alhamdulillah, tabarakallah. If things are not... Right? Not to say that everyone is like that, but very few that I've come across, very few that I've seen, you know what I mean? Or the guys that are doing the halal loans. Everything's great, 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 great. All right, brother, where's the source of the money? Oh, look, you know, some of the stories, I don't even want to go, like they just boggle the mind about how they try and make it from, we know it's coming from usurious sources, banks and whatever it might be. And they're saying, oh, you just get it from here, get it from the right hand, and by the time it gets to the left, that's basically what they're saying. And I'm talking about the directors and the people. So you get it from the right hand, and by the time it gets to the left hand, it's halal. Habibi, tell me how it's halal. Oh, well, you know, Habibi, tell me how it's got halal. What do you want me to do for you? Like, if you can't explain it, how do you want me to go for it? Everything is halal, the contract's halal, and it's this and this and this, Sharia compliant, and all the dispensations they've been talking about, they're fine. There's dispensations with it, things. But tell me how, when you get it from there, and you give it to me, how does it automatically, is it the tongue of the cow that you're hitting it with, if you know what I mean? Is that what's going on? Maybe it is, I don't know. Well, tell me. No. And then they give you these, like, really, I mean, the examples are so weird, I don't even remember them. Like, you know, like, if, oh no, I can't remember this. Like, come on, man, you can't be seriously sitting there telling me that story, expecting me to believe that, you know, I got this money from drugs, right? The same sort of deal. I got the money from drugs, so here's my right, and then by the time it changed to my left, it's halal. Yahi, it's from drugs. Yahi, it's from usury. Yahi, it's from theft. It's from whatever it's from. Warmongering. It's from whatever. It's impossible. Selling pork, selling haram. You cannot, it just doesn't magically become halal. Alright? And even you can get over that. Shar'an, if I make a contract with you, and I don't have to find out about where the sources are from. So if you're saying, listen, so that's what they're basically saying then. All these organizations are saying, look, I'm going to take the haram, like, this is what it comes back down to. I'm going to get the money from haram source as an organization, and the owners, that means the directors, and the shareholders, if they're shareholders, I don't know if there are, but certainly directors are saying, I'm going to take all the haram for all you people. Because sometimes in a Shari contract, if I'm buying something from you, I don't have to check where the money came from. If I'm buying camera from you, I don't have to make investigations as to, is it halal? Did you buy it? Did you steal it? Did you borrow it from someone and you don't have the proper, you don't have the rights to sell it as an owner? I don't have to make those investigations. Shar'an, not war'an, not being scrupulous, okay, but shar'an. So let's even say that we don't know. But if you know, shar'an, you can't take. If someone comes to me, if I take Hajj's pencil case, and you all see me just took it. So, bro, I sold it to you for $10. Right? You just saw me take the man's pencil case. Right? Can you buy it? Shar'an, you can't buy it. But if you didn't know, if I pulled it out of my bag, right, and said, hey, bro, I got this pencil case, $10. You don't know. Khalas, take it. Then we'll work it out later on. Hajj is going to have to, you know, take me to court and take the brother, and we'll have to work it out. So, shar'an, it's okay for it. But if you know 100%, you can't do it in the shara. So that's where the issue is. Say you're so dopey, right? So simple and so tayyib that you don't know that the money comes from, okay, sign the dotted line, but don't pretend. So if that's the case, right? If the case is that someone is really simple, they don't know that money comes, you know, $1 million to buy a house. That's what it costs to buy a house, or $600,000 to buy a unit. Someone's so simple and so tayyib and so naive, they don't know the money comes from banks. And I say I've got a halal loan facility, whatever it might be. Okay, I've got a halal loan facility. I'm taking the haram here because I know where the money comes from. And I'm writing a contract between me and the guy, right? Me and the borrower, saying that it's halal. Would you do that to make money? Well, that's what these people are doing in reality. Right? In reality, they know where the money's coming from. They know the money's coming from sources that are not permissible. And that's what they're doing. But that's if you want to take it one way. Then the other way you want to take it is to say it's haram, it's halal to trade. It's halal to trade with in a non-Muslim, in a country where there's no Sharia. Then why go to the halal people? Just go to the bank. Because they're taking 2 and 3% off the top, or 4%, or 5% extra than what the banks are taking. And guess what? They only guarantee you for 5 years. Every 5 years, They review. So where does that mean they're getting their money from? You can work it out. And if you can't, they're getting it from the banks, I'll tell you. Because that's what the banks do. They do 5-year fixed loans. And then every 5 years, they do a review of your loan. So that's what I'm saying to you. Tomorrow, the percentage goes up to... So house prices now, you open the can of worms. So I've got to tell you the whole thing so you can work it out or listen to it later or ask someone else about it. Okay? Just recently, house prices have dropped a lot. In the beginning, why did house prices, you guys don't remember, but in 1998, 1999, why did house prices in Auburn, a house was 60 grand, it went to 150 grand. Why? Because they deregulated the banking industry, right? Only people that used to give loans before was banks. Then you got Aussie and blah blah, Rams and Brick Roads and all sorts of different things. So then people just started, the money was available for people to take. So when there's more money, so the house is worth 50 grand, I can get 60, I'll pay 60. Or that person can get 70, they'll pay 70. Free money, so to speak. So the house prices kept on going up, and they've stagnated a bit here. There's been a little GFCs and all little things when the house... So now, why are the house prices going back down? Because of the ICAC, the Independent Commission Against Corruption, which is a good thing to have. They have independent people who are not attached to government and not attached to banks to look into the activities of the banks. And they found out that what? That the biggest frauders, surprise, surprise, right? All they're doing, they've got to pay back $6 billion. That's nothing. They make that every 3 months. 6 billion, that's nothing. We'll pay it back. They pay it back. But they're so money hungry, when that's the 1 cent. That's how they have to pay. It's the 1 cent they took here and there, and the 2 cents and fees, charging people. They have to make more money every year. And so why have house prices gone down? Because of the Independent Commission Against Corruption, right? The banks are worried now. So what? They want to make sure they're still making 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 billion every 3 months. So they've tightened their strings, right? They have to have a 20% deposit now to buy a house or a unit or whatever property. And so now there's not as much money around to throw at houses. So less demand, price goes down. Supply and demand. That's the proper market. So who knows what's going to happen? Everyone's confused. Why? Because nothing's based on the market. Nothing's based on the market. It's all based on, why do we have a GFC? Because people got scared. There's nothing really to it. Nothing. There was no like cyclones and whatever crazy stuff that went on. That's what happened. So the banks want to guarantee their profit. They don't care if the house prices go down. Why? Because they got you. Right? They got you in a mort gauge. Mort, death, gauge, bind. They bind you till death. They're not going to let go of you. Even when you die, don't worry, they'll follow your estate. Even when your estate's gone, they'll hold on to your property. See you later. You end up with nothing. And you die in debt, which is the worst way. The Prophet ﷺ used to pray on people who died in debt. So that's the deal. So trying to tell me that, or trying to convince you that the ummah's behind, right? Because we're not in that system. Habibi, wake up to yourself. Habibi, wake up to yourself. The ummah's behind because we don't have our own system. Are you trying to tell me we couldn't? We've got so much, everything comes from us. And you know the story back in the 70s, I think it was King Khalid, I can't remember which one it was. He said, Faisal it might have been. So when I turn off because people in New York, you know in America, I saw those cars, I went there, I saw with my own eyes, the cars in the 60s, 10 litre V8s, if anyone understands anything about cars. So your car is 1.6 litre. 10 litre. It's almost 5 times, 6 times the size of your engine. And the engine bay, I'm not exaggerating, I can fit in it. It's this big, I'm not exaggerating, that long. That's the cars they used to drive around because petrol was cheap. Then when the Saudis turned off the petrol, people were riding their bikes in the United States. And they started making, still don't know how to make 4-cylinder cars till now. That's the Japanese people's expertise, and the Koreans now, mashallah. They still don't know how to make good 4-cylinder cars till now. They're all rubbish. So that's what happened. When the Saudis, he said, well, don't worry, we're camel herders. We'll go back to eating camel meat and dates and drinking the milk of the camels. And then whatever, the story goes. So that's what, if we did our own system based on, everyone would have to come across. They have to, there's no choice. There is no choice because petrol, the biggest companies in the world are like IT companies, but 5 years ago, the biggest companies in the world were petrol companies because everything depended on petrol. Right? Every single thing depended on those things. So sorry mate, whoever that person telling you that thing is, it's a misnomer. They don't understand what they're talking about, unfortunately. And which one would you rather have? And that's one of the ways you can give da'wah to non-Muslims. When they talk about Sharia, that's economic justice. There's no, the money, people who have money don't just make more money in our system. It's an even system that whoever gives the greatest benefit back to society makes that money. And even monopolies, they only just yesterday decided, like just recently, they call it anti-competition laws now. Monopolies have been haram for 1400 years from the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Can't have a monopoly. You know what a monopoly is, don't you? Like one company or one person runs all of the water, or all of the wheat, or all of the rice, or all of the telephones, or all of the news, or all of whatever it might be. Can't have that, because that person can just dictate whatever. There's got to be true market share. It's haram to have a monopoly. Haram. And anti-competition laws, useless. That's why these massive companies merge and people, anyway, it's a long story, but it's a never-ending story. Why? Because it's just greed upon greed upon greed, materialism, consumerism. It's just never, it's a self-fulfilling, disastrous prophecy when and that's why at the end of time, monopolies are the reason at the end of time, only the people with Dajjal who sign off with the Dajjal in whatever way that might be, right? Only those people who sign off with the Dajjal at the end, they're the only people who are going to eat. If your little card doesn't tweet the right way, your little chip that you've got or whatever doesn't flash the right way, they're not going to feed you. So the Prophet, I'm not making this up, by the way, the chip is, I'm just joking around. But if a person doesn't agree with what the Dajjal said, there's no food for that person. The Prophet said they'll go into the mountains. That's the barakah of the usury system. That only a few. And when I was young, it was like 300 and something people had enough money had the same amount of money as half the world. Now it's like 9 people or 11 people have the same amount of money as half the world's population. So even that is becoming super rich, and everybody else. There's no more middles. There's no more rich even. Everyone's either super rich or just struggling to survive. So those monopolies lead to those things. Because people, the Americans, Australians have done it when the wheat prices were down. They put it on TV when we were kids. They just set the wheat silos on fire. Because if they put more wheat in the market, the demand's already low, and then if they put more supply, the price is going to go down. Or the Aussie farmers shooting the sheep in the head and burying them in pits because the prices for lamb is low. That's the barakah of the economic system in which we're dealing with. It's not about benefiting people. It's not about feeding people. It's not about making the world a better place. It's about filling up my pockets. As long as my pockets are full, what do I care about anyone else? And if I can evade tax, because I'm a multi-millionaire and I go to the offshore tax havens like the Bahamas and these, well, I'm smart, I'm a good businessman. Or I'll go to the Swiss banks and I can put my money in there anonymously and no one can touch my money. Why not? That's what I'll do. And that's the story of that. That's totally haram. And anyway, put haram on the side for a while. Any human being with an ounce of humanity, any human being with a milligram or the gram of humanity would never approve that. Would never say, yeah, that's the right way to behave as a human being. Ants don't even do that. Ants, wolves don't even do that. Jackals don't even do that. Hyenas don't even do that. They don't. Alligators and crocodiles don't, and we do that. They all share it, doesn't matter. They've got a system, of course, they've got a pecking order, but it all gets shared out, so except us, only one person eats and everyone starves. No one could accept that. Any person with a sane mind could never accept that. Could never say, yeah, that's a good way to behave. That's a good way to live. That's a good system. And we're all following it. We're all into the system and that's it. We're loving it, and any other system is backwards. We're the defenders of oppression when we're like that. So we've got to be careful about those things, and we've got to seriously consider what we're doing, how we're earning our money and how we're spending our money. Because if we don't, it's going to affect the spiritual state that we have, and it's going to affect our progression to Allah. No.
I just wanted to say, when was the last time we had a proper Islamic system?
That's a good question. I couldn't even answer. The last time, when this thing, The gold system is an Islamic system because it's based on a standard. What happened was, it started in the United States when they had the central bank, the Reserve Bank in the United States. What happened was, they said to people, bring in your gold. We'll give you, I think it was $20 for an ounce. Right? So people bring in their gold, because there was the depression and all these types of things. People bring in their gold, they gave them $20. But that's what it was. And originally money, right? It was either made out of gold or made out of silver. So its value stayed in the actual thing itself. The devaluation didn't happen because of markets, of the price, because of inflation and things. So what happened was, then when things became good, people said, we want our gold back. Because people back then, they weren't like us. They didn't easily get duped. So they went back to get their gold, and they said, oh sorry, $20 doesn't cut it anymore, you've got to pay $30. So all of a sudden, 50%'s gone. 50% of the value of all the money in the whole United States is gone, and then it just kept on going like that. Then later on, what happened was the United States owed Britain billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars. This is a true story, you can look it up. It's there all over the place. I'm not making it up. Right? They owed them billions of dollars, and the British came to collect. Right? They wanted billions of dollars worth of gold. And so the Americans had a special meeting of Congress on the Friday night, and then Monday they changed it. They said, our dollar is no longer connected to the gold standard. Here you go, take $5 billion. It's not worth anything. Yeah, well, that's the system, Habibi. Welcome, wake up. The alarm's ringing. That's what they did. Then everyone else freaked out and said, well, if they're not going to do it, we're not going to do it. So money's not tied to anything anymore. That's why it just goes up and goes down. It's tied to promises and loans. Who knows? Complicated system that I don't understand. I can't tell you. You have to speak to someone who's an economist. And even the economists I've spoken to, like I asked them about the GFC and I asked them about even they don't really know. It have to be someone super senior, I think, that knows what's going on with the inside of those things. So guess what, mate? It's not worth anything anymore. So back in the old days, you could take your money to the bank and get gold, because that's really what it was. And so anytime there's a system based on the market, that's Islamic. Anytime there's a system based on, and us, in our system, it's not just the standard of gold and silver, it's dates, it's hinta, I don't know what hinta is, like little seeds, hummus, right? Hummus, the hummus? Whatever this, rice, wheat, any kind of staple food, that can be currency. Anything, because it's got value. People want it. They need it to survive.
Who controls the value of it?
Who? Asking me. I don't know, bro. Someone does. Probably Shaitan himself, bro, or the Dajjal. I don't know. Or someone who's very close to the Shaitan or the Dajjal. Who knows? That's the whole question. Try and find out why the GFC happened. Try, go. Great Depression. Go.
Someone freaked everybody out in America.
Yeah, someone. Right, who freaked them out? That's the question. No one knows. That's the whole system. It's not based on anything, Habibi. It's not, Habibi, something that's not based on anything. How are you where's the truth in it? Where's the reality of it? There's no reality. It's not even paper no more. Like, you don't remember, but we never had cards and phones and watches to swipe. What's swipe?
That's ritual. That's even worse.
What's swipe? All your money is now, and all you are, is just a little bit of LCD on a screen somewhere in a server somewhere in the ether, right, in the cloud. And it's getting less and less and less cash economy. That's the Dajjal system. The more it becomes numbers, the more control, because they know where you spent it, where it went, where it came from, how much you're spending, what you're not spending. It's all there. But cash, you get it and then you spend it however you want.
Can you buy a house from just cash?
You've got to be. So the question is, can you buy a house with cash? Yeah, then they'll come down. They'll probably get you for money laundering, or.
Basically,
Well, you got to show where the money came from. If you got cash, you got to be able to show where your money came from. Otherwise, you'll be in big trouble. Any transaction over $10,000 that's not electric is there's a whole OSTRAC. There's a whole thing they track money and where it comes, and they say they should. It's for terrorism. That's why they started it off. I'm serious. It was for terrorism, but that's why they started it off, and now they do it for money laundering and all these other things. Welcome to the real world, or so to speak, the world that we live in, and it's not real, but that's the real world for us. So that's why you got to be careful. That's why you got to be careful, like those loans that are interest-free loans. If somewhere along the line you pay interest, it's not halal. Right? If you're going to take that view, you're going to take that view. If you're going to take the other view, do whatever you have to do. If that's the case, credit cards, and let's see where it's going to end up. No, all right, go use the system. Go use the system. See where it's going to end up. See what the story is going to be. Happened to the people in America. This is what happened when the GFC happened. All the houses were overvalued, and they're trying to say that people were rorting the system or whatever. Maybe not. Okay, so people bought a house for $500,000. Then the house price dropped. They borrowed $500,000 to buy the house. They still owe the bank $500, but the house only worth $200. Right? That's what happened. So the average Joe, they got nothing to do with Lehman Brothers and all these big massive firms. They got nothing to do with those people. They're just average people. But that's what happened to them. Isn't that what's happening now? People who borrowed $1 million 6 months ago, 1 year ago, to buy their house, how they'll be lucky to get $850 for it now. Lucky to get $850, but they still owe $1 million. And then the interest rate went up. So it may be halal, but it's not just about that, really. Right? The Hanafis have got that. Think further. All right, if you bought your house 20 years ago, different story. But now, when things are the way they are with GFCs and all this playing around, the systems become less tied to anything else, what's going to happen? If your house is only worth $850 and you owe $1 million, can you sell it for $850? You're still going to be paying $150,000 with the rent you got to pay. And if that interest rate keeps on going up, you may never pay that $150 off. Maybe because you've got to live, and it's going to get harder to live. Because when that happens, everything becomes more expensive. Yeah? Everything, that's it. That's the nature of things. They become more expensive when that happens. So you've got to think about it. You've got to think about it carefully if you want to enter that. And especially for massive amounts. All right, if it's a couple of $1,000s, something, it's a different story. And the other thing is that people, this is my own personal research. Before, they used to have A1. Is that the big size paper? Is that A1?
A1, A0.
Right, A1 is the big paper like this. They used to have A2, big papers, and it was made out of cardboard. And they used to write on it, this lot 1 of depositor plan 2 in the parish of Cumberland. That's the house that you live in. Okay, then they used to, because they didn't have electronics, they used to stamp when the person purchased it. Purchased by Ali Abdul on this date. And then the mortgage is next to it. Mortgage to NAB, whatever it is, the bank for this much. And then when it's discharged, there's another stamp. This is how it was. Stamp for the purchaser, stamp for the mortgage. When the mortgage is paid off, another stamp. I've seen about, 50, 60, 70 of those. I've never seen a mortgage that is longer than 5 years back then. I've never seen one. Most of them were 2 or 3 years. People were paying off their houses. Imagine paying off $1 million in 2 or 3 years. You have to be earning $500,000 a year plus. I never saw it. Then in the 1997, Torrance Title came in. This is New South Wales. 1997, and everything became electronic. And those big ones now, when someone else did one the other day, someone passed away, we did their probate, their will. So they give you the old one just to keep it on, that's not worth anything. And you've got these new ones with security, and you can't tell. So what now? 35-year loans. Why should there be? I only saw a couple. Most of them were paid off in 2 to 3 years. That was by far the average. 35-year loan. And you know why the banks got in trouble? Because they gave loans to old ladies who were 70, 60, 60 and 70. They're not going to live for 110, 120 years. But what happens? When she dies, they get their money. The pound of flesh. Have you ever heard of the book, The Merchant of Venice? Read that book. It'll tell you how the system works. It's Shakespeare. As if. Right? So, that's the thing. The stories are there for reasons. And it's up to you. You've got to make that decision if you want to take the rukhsah and what the ramifications of that will be. And you got to decide for yourself if you want to live in another way. Are you trying to tell me that all the equity we have, the Muslims, there's 600,000 Muslims in Australia. About half of those are in Sydney. Right? So we're talking about 43% of Muslims live in Sydney. What's that? It's about 280,000 people. Let's say half of them have houses. That's about, I can't add it up, but if each one of those is 1 million,
140K.
right? It's like a couple of $1 billion of equity there. A few $1 billion of equity. You tell me we can't do nothing halal. Serious. Is that what you're trying to tell me? Not with everyone, with 10% of that. 5% of that. Whatever it might be. Few people. But, so, that's the question that you've got to ask yourself. And if you're studying economics or something like that, come up with it. If you can do it. Start the right thing. Get the money from wherever, from the equity that's in those properties. Whatever the story is. Find a halal way to do it. There's no reason why bi'Iznillah Azza wa Jalla it can't be done. When we did the halal wills back in the day, everyone said you can't do it. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. It's been going for nearly 20 years, mashallah. They said you can't find halal food. Now 80-90% of our food, the meat in Australia, all of it is halal. They were saying that you can't do it. So there's no reason, bi'Idhnillah Azza wa Jal. Alright, any more questions? I know it's a big topic. I know I spoke heaps about it. We're going to be asked twice about our money. Where'd you get it from? By Allah Azza wa Jal. And how did you spend it? Twice. Where'd you get your money from? Was it halal? And did you spend it in the right place? So it's a big thing. It's a big part. My personal theory is, if everyone in Australia ate halal, you try and tell me our diet wouldn't be accepted. All the Muslims ate halal. I mean non-Muslims. All the Muslims ate 100% halal. What is the athar? They say this. The awliya say, طيب طعامك يستجاب دعائك, or something like that. Afwan. Purify your food. Make sure it's 100% halal. Guaranteed your dua will be accepted. Guaranteed your dua will be accepted, because you're all halal. And it's the opposite of the hadith that the man, he's praying, he's yelling Ya Allah, but his clothes are halal, and his ride is halal, and his food is halal. Allah won't accept. So it's the opposite of that hadith. They say, if that's the person who isn't halal, they're crying to Allah, they're not getting accepted. And the person who's all halal, they're crying to Allah, automatically bi'idhnillah Azza wa Jal accepted. So, and no, I'm not saying those things to scare you or to put anybody off. It's a wa'ad, right? That's what a wa'ad, alhamdulillah, that's what probably the whole point of the whole thing was. That's what a wa'ad is, whatever that was. And also to be aware. Be aware of the charlatans that are out there and the people that are, looking like they're proper Muslims and whatever in reality. Maybe they just don't even know as well. Maybe they don't even know. And then decide for yourself how far you want to go into it.